get everything that you know something's going to break, and it's already broken while I've been sitting there. Google have done something at Google I/O, and now I can't push to a phone. Thank you. So we'll just go with it. David says we should prepare. I can't prepare for Google doing something. I haven't updated anything. This is the strange thing. 5 hours ago, I could push to this phone. Now it says there's a version mismatch, and I can't do it. Anyway, we'll carry on, and we'll make the best of it. Great. OK, so I'm Dan Jenkins from Nimble Ape. A little about me. If you don't know me, you don't know this, but I am a huge proponent of the web platform. I'm a web developer who just happens to do telephony. So I love the web, and I love open source software. I founded Nimble Ape 6 years ago now, and we do RTC consulting around an awful lot of WebRTC, and a lot of Asterisk, a lot of FreeSwitch, little bit of Kamailio, and then more recently an awful lot of Dractio. If you don't know what Dractio is, come talk to me afterwards. This is a Kamailio thing. So I'm Dan_Jenkins on Twitter. You can tweet me. I love getting tweets about my talks, so tweet me and follow me. Anyway, so I also organize a conference in the UK called ComCon. So this year that will be 7th to the 11th of July. It's very, very different to any other event in the industry. Last year we had lots of fun. I'm talking quite fast at the moment because I've got quite a lot of content, so I want to get through the content and take you through the content rather than talking more about me. But I'm a Google developer expert, and I specialize in WebRTC. And apparently I say hey presto an awful lot during my talks, so I haven't got anything to give away, but I will be very interested to see how many times I say hey presto during the talk. So yeah, ComCon, residential conference. We had an awful lot of fun last year. We even learned a little bit. I mean, I love that picture of Daniel. And yeah, this year it will be there again. And I just want to give everyone a code, KW2019, for £100 off until the end of next week, if you want to come. Right, let's talk about stuff that we're actually here for. We're actually here for Kamailio World. So building your new native softphone with web technologies. I think that's one of the longest titles I've ever given a talk ever. But it kind of encapsulated everything. So new native softphone with web technologies. So how do all those things kind of fit in together? Seems like everyone wants a really feature-rich softphone at the moment. Everyone. Like 3 years ago, no one was coming to me and going, Dan, can you make me a softphone? No one. Like, I would have said no, because all the right tools for me to do it 3 years ago weren't there. They are now, but for some strange reason in the past year and a half, it's really, really kicked off, and everyone wants a much better experience than what's already out there. And I think it's probably 80% of my business at the moment. And that's an awful lot of hours. And an awful lot of clients, you can imagine, all wanting the same thing, but their own spin on it. So for me, building things, I really have to build things fast, and I have to iterate, and I have to be able to get things out, and they're good quality. So, I mean, what tech industry moves faster than any other industry out there? I mean, it's got to be the web industry. And that's not because I'm a web developer and I'm kind of boasting about web development tools, etc. That's just a fact. Facebook, Google, all of them are pushing forward technology. And it's all centered more around the web than anything else. So, yeah, whenever I say to people, web technology is amazing, they always blurt this back in my face. Oh, but how do you keep up with those web technologies, Dan? There's a new JavaScript framework out every week. Well, I mean, yes, there is. There's Vue, there's React, there's Angular. I mean, I won't get into the topic of whether or not all of those are actually frameworks or not, but there's an awful lot of choice, and actually keeping up with all of that choice is very, very tiring. And my advice to you is don't keep up with all that choice. Make a decision, stick with it. I don't write Angular, and I don't write Vue. I write React. So, yeah, like I said, I'm a web developer who just happens to do telephony. So, yeah, what better technology stack to build a native mobile application than web tech? A lot of you are probably going, well, that sounds ridiculous, or we've been doing that for ages, like we've had Cordova and things like that. Well, yes, we have, but now we're at a really good point, and we're able to do it in a very, very good way. Web tech, so React, React Native, React, web components, all of that goodness, JavaScript, new JavaScript, SIP, and WebRTC. So that's the very core of all of the soft phones that I make. So React. React is built by Facebook. And that's really, really powerful because we've got so much enthusiasm behind the project. And we're always getting updates. Recently, we've got an amazing update in hooks in React. And that kind of fundamentally changes how we can write applications. But that's been a long time coming, and it's been an iterative process. So who here knows React? So about half the room. How many people have never heard of React? Great, that's good. And yes, the rest of you have heard of React, but don't really know what it truly does, and it's just another JavaScript framework that I need to learn. So yeah, React is a JavaScript library. It's not a framework for building user interfaces. It's declarative, component-based, so you can write components and reuse them. And then it's got the power where you learn once, and then you can write for anywhere using those components. The important bits for me, it's just HTML, it's just JavaScript, and it's just CSS. And you can write a component, and it has all of those separate bits, and then you can reuse that component. Those are the core web languages. So they're reusable components. You can reuse them. There are third-party components. So you'll see in a bit, when I show you the phones, I'm no designer. Like, shock horror, web developers generally aren't good designers. But these apps actually look pretty good. And that's because I use Google's material design. And there are already components out there that I can reuse. So I can reuse a ton of code, and I can make an app that looks pretty damn good. And I'm not a designer. I haven't had to do all of that work. I'm just kind of pulling in all of that other stuff by using third-party components. The key thing with React is that it's got a virtual DOM. So you don't touch the actual DOM within the browser. You build it using React, and then React takes care of it all for you. That's because the browser does lots and lots of clever stuff, and there's an awful lot of clever people at Google and all of the other companies that are now supporting Chromium, because that's the only browser that we actually really have now, which is quite sad. It's all about painting to the screen when you're blocking, all of that jazz. And I'm not clever enough to know all of that stuff, but people at Facebook, people at Google know that, and they've built React to be able to deal with all of that information. So that's React, React Native. So lots of people think, oh, yeah, so you can just React. You can run your React project that you've already built for the web, and it will just work on iOS and Android natively, right? It will just magically work. So that kind of sounds like Cordova, doesn't it? How many people have heard of Cordova? Okay, so slightly more people than React Native, React. Did anyone actually try and build anything with Cordova? Okay, that's kind of what I expect as well. So Cordova allowed us to write native applications using web technology, but it was very much like, it was a web view, and then it kind of just let you do some extra native stuff. It wasn't really integrated properly. So React Native isn't at all like React Native at all. But like I just said, React code doesn't equal React Native code. It's definitely not a one-to-one relationship. So all the people that say, yeah, you can just take all of your web components that you've made with React, and then you can just run them on the native device. They're lying, completely and utterly. There's a ton of work that has to go into making that component work on native. That's not to say you can't reuse a load of stuff, but it's definitely not a one-to-one relationship. So React Native doesn't use HTML. It uses native views. And so you have to switch out all of your HTML code for native views. I mean, there are clever ways of doing that to reduce the burden, but it's still not a one-to-one relationship. Some people actually build a native app using native views, and then they create a web version from native, and that's a bit easier as well. That doesn't sit well with me. But yeah, the core thing is, with React Native, in the way that it's different to React, is it doesn't manipulate the DOM via the virtual DOM. There's an interpreter in a background task, and then that communicates with native land. So you're running a load of JavaScript still, and then that talks over a bridge to native land and does stuff in native land. To me, React Native apps are as close to pure mobile native apps as you'll get at the moment. So why don't I go pure native? I'm a web developer, like I was saying. I love writing JavaScript. I love using NPM modules. Someone else and I make my own NPM modules and put them out in NPM. I love using other people's code. I love using my code. I love reusing code. That's a better way of putting it. And I love the web community. It's like no other. So building native apps for me, there is only one answer. I mean, I hate writing Java, and I hate writing Objective-C. I've never actually tried Swift, to be perfectly honest. But Web Technologies does it for me. So that's two of the three bits of making these apps. And then there's the WebRTC point. I mean, how many people in here have heard of WebRTC? I mean, not everyone's put up their hand, which is a complete and utter lie. And I know that it's afternoon on the last day, but you've all heard of WebRTC because Tim's been talking about it in his last talk. So if you don't know, it's secure by design. There are very, very cool, quick call setup times. It's built to handle NAT, and there's a mandatory HD quality audio codec in there. And it just happens to also support video. So all of those things make a Softphone truly amazing. What's wrong with Bria? What's wrong with, sorry, Zoipa? It's because Opus isn't a mandatory thing, for example. G711 is in there, in the list. And so what happens when you go through some bad network connectivity? Oh, well, you were by default going via G711, and therefore the call drops, or has a very, very bad experience. That's not Zoipa's fault, and that's not Bria's fault. That is the fact that we're using a Softphone that uses SIP and RTP. If we build a Softphone around WebRTC, that isn't an option anymore. So we have to have good quality everything. So that's enough talk. Let's talk about some detail. Everything that I write is based off a base app that I made. Basically, I made 2 or 3 web Softphones, and then realized I was essentially rewriting the same code loads and loads of time. So I made a base app, and then that's available to clients. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just saying that's what all of this is based off of. So there's a base React app that these phone apps are based off of. So I don't know how well this demo is going to. Oh no, this demo will go fine because it's the web phone. So you can see here. Can I make this bigger? Yeah, I can, because it's the web. I can just do that. So there you go. You can see the phone there. And you can see it's built using material design. So I'm up here with a nice bar, and it's got some nice shadows. And like when I hover over, you can just see that there's a circle that appears, and there's a ripple. Look, there's a ripple. And I didn't do any of that work. Google did it for me. So, this is the base app, and you can see when I call, hopefully I'm connected to the Wi-Fi, and we've got DHCP leases. You're not going to hear this at all, but I'm in an echo test with my Asterisk server. And I can hold that call, I can resume that call, and I can mute that call, and I can even put in some DTMF tones, good old DTMF. And then I can end that call, and I can have multiple calls going on all at the same time. And that's just that's a React app brought into a non-React website. Play. Right, so you can see the base app there, right? So how many people in this room have heard of progressive web apps? Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, so progressive web apps are essentially web apps that run in the web, obviously, and then you can install them onto your device. And so you get a nice icon in your home screen, for example, and then you get access to like something called a service worker in JavaScript, which then runs when the actual website isn't available. So you can then do push notifications to a website that isn't open. That's just some of the goodness in progressive web apps. So yeah, after that, some of you might be going, well, we do push notifications for phone calls. I have no idea what I'm doing on time, by the way. Yeah, we do push notifications for phone calls, so surely we could have that in a web browser and then push, and then that would open the web browser, and hey presto, everything would be good. Web apps on mobile are second-class citizens. It's just a fact. Web apps don't have access to so many native APIs that we just can't do this. They don't have access to contacts. Every single soft phone wants contacts, even though you have a contacts app on your phone. Every single one does. So you can't get access to your contacts. You can't get access to prioritized push notifications to wake up a device when it's in the background. It doesn't have access to CallKit and connection service. These are the two main things. These are the two main reasons why we build soft phones natively. Doesn't have access to Bluetooth headsets, plus many, many, many more. And it hurts me every single time that I have to make one, because I really want to just make a web app. Daniel, how am I doing on time? All good? Whoa, I'm way over. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I'm a realist. So web apps don't work for everything, but web technology can work for everything. So let's try and do a demo. So I was going to demo the actual Android version running on, where's my phone? I was going to run, yes, I tried to do this over the Wi-Fi and via USB, and it didn't work. So you'll just have to trust me. Can I? Oh, I know what I could do. I know what I can do. Let's escape that. Close that. New screen recording. And I want to record, oh no. New movie recording? New movie recording, and then that's, oh, okay, yeah, we'll do this. So, does that show? Yeah, there we go. So I'm not going to show you CallKit, and I'm not going to show you connection service. But essentially, if you haven't heard of CallKit and connection service, it's what gives a native feel to answering a phone call. So this is an app that I'm making for a client at the moment, and we can press go. So we can go into contacts, and you can see a load of contacts, and I probably shouldn't show that because this is being recorded. Dial pad, so 6048. Is this going to work? No, it didn't work. Okay. Oh, it's because this doesn't have Wi-Fi, because like I couldn't get a DHCP lease. Anyway, but you can see it feels like a native app. let's unplug that, and let's just see whether or not I can FaceTime HD camera. Yes. So here's my app, and let's make a phone call to myself. 2278 dial. So there's it ringing, and then you can see this is the key thing. Can you see that up there? That is my native dialer, and so I'm able to answer that call, and it opens it up into the actual native dialer in Android. Something weird's going on with the Wi-Fi and everything because it thinks that I've actually not. But you can see that there. It does work, I promise you, in good Wi-Fi conditions. But you can see, and from all of these are all usable. And so that is native integration. And that's the key thing in building React Native apps. It gives you that integration. So what just happened there? So that was the React Native app talking to a Dractio server, Kamailio, and running an RTP engine. I use Dractio because I like writing Node.js, proper Node.js, not JavaScript, and Kamailio doesn't quite give me what I want. And then that's talking to an asterisk / free switch server / whatever. Could talk anything the other side. So yeah, what makes a good soft phone? Can React Native do everything that makes a good soft phone? Yes, absolutely. We've just seen we've got CoolKeep, CoolKit, but using web technologies allows me to use everything in NPM. But more importantly, there's key projects that allow me to do all of this. One's called React Native WebRTC, and that takes care of the JavaScript bridge between the proper native SDK and JavaScript. There's a project called React Native CoolKeep, which was made by the Wazo team, and now it all lives under one organization. And that takes care of CoolKit and connection service for us. So we get this feature-rich experience for free. So thank you very much, Wazo team, and the open source community around that. That is absolutely fantastic. And then there's another one called React Native In-Call Manager, which does a load of awesome stuff that you expect to happen during a phone call on a mobile device. So what happens when you are on a phone call and you hold the phone up to your head? The screen automatically turns off, doesn't it? So that you can't press any buttons. In-Call Manager does all of this magic for us. Does ringtones, does ringback, does everything that we expect from a phone call. And then the key pieces on top of all of that is push notifications. So unfortunately, there's two. There's APN for Apple, and then there's FCM for Google. And annoyingly, the package from Wix doesn't support FCM properly, and so we end up using React Native Firebase as well as React Native notifications. And lastly, there's a project called JSZip, which is amazing. I use it in every single WebRTC project that has to talk zip, and there's a load of magic dust that I've had to do to make that work properly in React Native land, and that's on my GitHub. So there's a load of awesome projects, and you might think, oh, Dan, that sounds really cool, and like, but surely it still takes 6 months to go and make an app. So for this client, to get to the point where it's working today is probably just over eight weeks in total-ish, something like that. So it is really, really fast. And I mean, this version of the app is far from complete, but doing the same work in a native app would take much longer, I believe. So I'm probably running over. Yeah, I am running over. Build a soft phone with WebRTC and web technology. It will give you the best call experience. It will give you the best call setup time experience. And it will give you the best feature experience. My personal belief is that React Native development is quicker than native app development. That's not because I have written a load of native apps. That's because I've got a load of friends that write proper native apps, and it takes a long time. So that's a Dan Jenkins fact, because I said so. Oh yeah, so another thing that I also get chucked at is, oh Dan, you must still write a load of native code though, like to put all those bits together. In all of the time that I've been building React Native apps, I think I've touched about 20 lines of native code. That's all. That's adding some features into CallKit. That's adding some features into in-call manager. Yeah, about 20 lines. So if you love JavaScript, you can make amazing apps that do amazing things without ever touching Objective-C or Java or Swift. Yeah, it's absolutely possible to build amazing quality apps. So yeah, go use the ecosystem and build with the web. It's, yeah, build fast, deploy quickly. And yesterday, Microsoft announced React Native Windows. So soon, you'll be able to take this Softphone and you'll be able to make a proper Windows app using React Native. So for almost no development, there'll be a little bit, but almost no development, you get a whole new platform. That's amazing. All these companies are using React Native. You'll see Facebook, you'll see Tesla, you'll see Uber, Wix. Sangoma's Zulu is made with React Native. I'm pretty certain they've told everyone that before, so I'm not telling anyone anything new. And as Sylvain was saying earlier, Wazo uses React Native heavily, and they are great contributors to the ecosystem. So there are big, big companies using React Native, building amazing apps. We're Nimble 8, your friendly RTC consultants. We're hiring just like everyone else here. Questions, thank you very much. And don't forget this ComCon with a code, KW 2019, if you want £100 off. And that is the end. I don't even think I've got time for any questions.
No, we have 1, 2 questions here. Kyle, it's already. That is the coffee break, so we can go a bit.
So I know SIP.js is not what you're using. They explicitly say...
Yeah, SIP.
Right, I know. SIP.js explicitly says browser and Electron. I don't know for JS-SIP. It sounds like you said you had to fork it and do something. How extreme were your changes?
Not huge. I've been having a conversation with the JS-SIP team about how we want to make that go back into the actual project in a nice way so that it's both web and React Native friendly.
Okay, so there's a potential path forward there? 'Cause
yes.
that's been one of my big concerns is making sure that the stack actually supports both web and native.
Yeah. So there is a
SIP.
path there. We just haven't discussed it enough to figure out how we want to do it. Okay. If SIP.js have already done it, then we might go and take a look.
No, they explicitly don't support it.
Oh, they don't support it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, today you could go and use my fork very, very happily. I keep it up to date with what's released with JS-SIP. But yes, there is an open dialogue there with the JS-SIP team.
Okay. And the last question here from Portugal.
Hi, hello. Regarding to build apps, mobile apps with Cordova and React Native, I want to ask you, how about the loading performance with React Native? Do you find there is still some difference between the native apps and the React Native apps?
So yes, there is a slight difference. So, but you can work around them to still give a good experience. So one of the key differences is when you open a React Native app, if you don't write it properly, there'll be a flash of white. Yeah. And that's while the JavaScript is then being interpreted. Mm-hmm. But you can get around that. There's a package called React Native Splash Screen, which just carries on showing a splash screen until that, like half a second later, and then within your code, you can then hide that splash screen. So yes, there are still differences. In my mind, they're minute enough, and there's enough benefit. Yeah. There's a ton of benefit to using React Native
comparative to Cordova, that was our initial approach. That was our biggest problem,
Right.
to load the apps. Essentially, especially when they are dead, they are completely dead, and we receive a call, and you have to put the call with. We use call kit and with Cordova, and we managed to hide that loading time, but still is not the optimized experience. So.
But no, there's no. It's not like it takes 2 seconds to load up a React Native app. It is minimal, and you can do very clever things to hide the fact from the user.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Then for more questions, please approach him. I'm sure